international panel, which is going to look at how universities are responding to the challenges. Could I invite first Pam Fredman, President of the International Association of Universities, who's from Sweden, but the organisation is based in France. Khaled Abdul Ghaffar, His Excellency, Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research from Egypt. Ludovic Thilly, Chair of the Coimbra Group Executive Board from Belgium. And finally, Michaela Onfray, Rector in Charge of Alexandru Ioan Cuza University from Romania.
So thank you very much for the invitations to be here at the very good event for Salamanca. I've been here in May too. And also, of course, for the Magna Carta, which is in the heart, I would say, of many of us. I also got the big task to keep the time of all of us, and that means 13 minutes, and I will scream after 13 minutes. And I have to stick the time to the time myself first. So I start. The interest of higher education and research performed in higher education institutions has many stakeholders and thereby many views on higher education's role in society. One new but developing focus is on their social responsibility. And this includes not only dissemination of knowledge through research and education to private and public sectors and civil society, but also a demand on challenges to address on cooperation with actors outside the higher education institutions. Expectations are increased on innovation, education for the job market, applied science, research relevance, and moreover, funding of higher education and research is not only a public responsibility, and the higher educations are often more or less depending on external funding. At the same time, as we notice an increased interest of the higher education and research, there is also an increased questioning of knowledge and facts based on research and proven experience. The trust for higher education is challenged, and more so in some countries and regions. And this has consequences for the interest in government funding of higher education institutions, and also, I would say, private funding. However, the biggest threat with this mistrust is the lack of respect for and value of academic fundamental value. And I would like to emphasize on the freedom of research and education and the coupling of research and higher education. It is important to have in mind, and it has been mentioned already, that higher education institutions do educate the next generation of decision makers, the employers and developers of business and public sectors, and critical and responsible citizens for a sustainable future. With this being said, I continue on the global perspective. Higher education institutions around the world have very different conditions pursuing higher education or research. And this includes autonomy from political impact, financial control and influence from government and other stakeholders, and therefore also different opportunities and difficulties to meet the expectations and requirements from the society. The engagement and cooperation with society is conducted in many different ways, and so it should be. There are no quick fix or standard solutions. It has to be handled differently in relation to the interest of the stakeholder, regional and national perspectives and needs. And it's therefore so important to share experience, as we do here and in many other occasions, and success, but also to try to together be a strong voice for advocating the unique role of higher education institutions to perform education and research under academic freedom. The higher education institution has a great responsibility to do so, and at the same time meet social needs and new knowledge and competence. So I would highlight some of my concerns when it comes to the new perspectives on the higher educations. In higher education, we have to remember that the higher education is an academic education and should give our students the academic skills of creativity, critical thinking, and analytical capacity. So, concerns on the academic fundamental values is that there are political interference and restrictions. On academic education for today's and for the future job market of society, my concern is that there is an increasing demand on education for today's job market. The employers requires an influence on course content. There is a STEM focus in many countries, and there is a lack of needed broadness in competence and the competence needed to meet the challenges. Access and success for higher education for all. It has been raised before. There are social and economic exclusions due to commercialization and less public funding. Digitalization, I think that we all see that opens new possibilities. But concerns are, do we also have academic skills in that type of learning? Quality assurance, integrity, and ethical questions. In research, academic freedom, the unique role of curiosity-driven research in the universities. My concern is that relevance and impact demands change the balance of basic and applied research funding. There is an increase of research funding around the world, and that's good. But concerns are that these money are earmarked, targeted, focused many times on STEM areas, and not at all always coupled to the educational needs. Research institutes and research hotels within the universities is a concern that we are losing the coupling between education and research, and thereby also the transfer of knowledge to society. Open science and open access, research for the public good. There is a great concern from me that the public funders put restrictions on openness of data, results, and publications. Secrecy demands from stakeholders, lack of knowledge for the transfer to society, and we also have fact resistance. Ethical and integrity perspectives need to be respected, and I think that there is a lack of understanding for these perspectives from both politicians, society, and funders. And now I would like to exemplify how I've taken those concerns in an ongoing investigation I have in Sweden. I have to come up with a new model for management and funding of higher education institutions in Sweden. I should deliver the 3rd of December, so you are among the first to hear what's going on. First of all, we have to remember that Sweden, higher education institutions are all public authorities, and higher education is almost exclusively public funded. Research is also funded by external funding, which is increasing over time. So the government direction or directives I was giving was to come up with a new model that should give conditions for the higher education institutions to take their responsibility as research and higher education providers, and with perspectives of the societal needs. The overall goal is to increase the quality and international competitiveness of higher education institutions. The model should build on trust, long-term conditions, and coordination, define the role of higher education institutions in society, clarify the division of responsibilities between states and higher education institutions, strengthen the coupling between education and research, and promote diversification and cooperation. And my most important message here is that working with this, talking to stakeholders, we have come up to that the prerequisite for a model is the establishment of fundamental values of higher education institutions. the academic freedom and the social responsibility. And to imply a model built on trust, these prerequisites must be accepted by the government and described in law and propagation. The description in law and propagation secures the status of the fundamental values, and even though there are no guarantees, it makes it more difficult for new regimes to change. These fundamental values then need to be respected in management, in resource allocation, both from the government and by any stakeholder. Cooperation between stakeholders need to be built on respect for their respective play roles and goals. To fulfill the long-term perspectives needed for planning and taking on responsibilities of education and research for higher education institutions, we suggest that the government come up with a proposition of higher education and research lasting for 4 years, and which should be built on strategic goals for the politicians and also for the society. At the same time, on the university side, there should be an institutional strategy built on collegial involvement and competence. And with these two, we suggest that there is an agreement between the government and the individual institutions to last for the 4 years. And we hope that that type of dialogue also be part of the increased trust between the government and the higher education institutions. So, in conclusion, there is no uniform model to be found and no general indicators. However, the fundamental values of the role of the universities are common and should be defended regardless of nation, politics, funding systems. Ethical perspectives should be respected and always considered. Cooperation and funding should respect the fundamental values of higher education institutions and consider ethical aspects. So finally, successful cooperation has to be built and should be built on trust and respect for each other's terms and conditions. Thanks. So thereby I leave the floor for the next speaker, and I keep the time.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I have to start by congratulating the Magna Carta Observatory for the 30th anniversary of the first signing of the Magna Carta Universitatum. And I thank you very much, Dr. Ortega, for hosting this important event in Salamanca and for the warm welcoming. I think everybody here feels the warm welcoming of Salamanca, right? Together with congratulating University of Salamanca on its 800th anniversary. What a long time for a great university. Where I'm coming from, we respect very much the academic freedom and autonomy and how this is responsible and connected to the society. And we have served the sector of the society in which it operates globally well over many years. Which is why when considering a future development in the educational system in Egypt, where I'm representing the Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research, we have decided to put these values at the heart of our new development in all our steps to the future. These values, alongside with other factors of freedom and autonomy and social responsibility, creates a great environment for creativity and innovation. I would like to share with you some of our thoughts in the reform of higher education in Egypt that we are doing during the last year and the coming years. And these are the challenges that we are putting together. Since we are here in 800 years anniversary, let me share with you Egypt with a 7,000 year of history, and a little old than Dr. Sexton mentioned when he mentioned a young nation of the United States. Where I'm coming from, it's quite an old nation. So during ancient Egyptian times and the Pharaoh's time, social and political needs of the society was structured around education. And we managed to emphasize all forms of knowledge that existed at that time. As an example of that, some of the Egyptian goddess of wisdom and knowledge and writing, her name was Seshat. And she's the one to be accredited for record keeping and writing and scribing, in addition to accounting, agriculture, astronomy, astrology, building, mathematics, and surviving. She did a great time and she did a great effort back then, 7,000 years ago. When we talk about universities, I cannot forget Al-Azhar University, where I'm coming from, where it's 1,048 years of education, and it still operates to this moment, hosting more than 35,000 students in our education system. When you go to the schools, let me just give you a tip of information about Queen Sofia of Spain, where the mother, where she took her early education in the EGC, which is a Nasr Girls' School in Alexandria, Egypt, back some years ago. But let me share with you the problems and the challenges that we really faced during the last 8 years and how this affects the values and the fundamental values of freedom and autonomy, and how universities shared to overcome this challenged period and the unrest period in Egypt. We went through a lot of political challenges in the form of 2 revolutions, and fighting against terrorists, as anybody in the world fighting against this bad terrorist attacks that happens everywhere, but we are facing that very much. Economic challenges in the form of physical deficit, unemployment rate, repatriation problem of the foreign currency, difficult in investment climate, and slow economic growth, where we managed to take a very serious economic reforms to arrange for a mega projects for employment and consolidation of the deficit by subsidy reforms and VAT law and civil servant law, together with other investment laws to encourage more investment in the country and more employment. We also support very much the private sector, particularly in the field of education and healthcare. But during all this period, let me just share with you that we have to educate and host 3 million students in our educational system. And in order to do that, we have 26 public universities, 24 private universities, and 45 institutes belongs to 8 technical colleges, 157 private higher institutions, and 11 private middle institutions, together with Al-Azhar University. Our growth enrollment ratio for students ranged from 18 to 21 years is 35%. This whole system operated by 120,000 staff, teaching staff, 415,000 postgraduate students from diploma, master degree, and doctorate degree. In order to do that, we have definitely to align with the Egyptian 2030 vision with the government support in the form of knowledge-based economy. We are building a new administrative capital to host a lot of educational institutions, and we're definitely working hard to start building up an international and globalization of our education system in the form of international branch campuses. So when we look at our main focus and main pillars for our education to be aligned with the 2030 Egyptian vision, we are targeting access because we're expecting students to increase in the next 10 years by 1.2 million students. So we have to find space for that students. We also improve the quality and modernize higher education by changing the curriculum and revising the curriculum and try to benchmark this curriculum with the international standards. In addition, we are aligning our future generation with the labor market needs, and we are enhancing the international competitiveness of our educational universities and institutions. So we are expecting to have more students during the next few years and to increase by 4.2 million by 2030. So this means that we have to be ready by 300,000 space available by 2020 and add 1 million space by 2030. This means a hell of a lot of work. This means we need to add a lot of universities, a lot of institutions. We need to encourage more and more universities to come and help and invest in our education system. The potential is there. We have potential and we have a lot of opportunities for international universities to invest in Egypt, having all these numbers of students expected to be in the next few years. But as a government, in order to start working hard on that, we started by 23 national projects running together at the same time in the form of international universities, adding more government-free public universities, technological institutions, IBC's campuses that we're working hard right now, and we are adding, in addition to around 22 research institutions, we're adding 3 more research institutions in the next few years. For International Branch Campus, where we used and aligned with the Magna Carta Universitatum values and fundamentals, we just launched and the Parliament enacted the new law last July, aiming to support and attract investments in higher education. And the most important pillar in this law was the Magna Carta Universitatum fundamentals and values. And we encourage all the universities trying to come and sign with us to be aligned with those values and fundamentals and to encourage them to sign with the Magna Carta Universitatum. When we looked at the World Bank and how they evaluated our autonomy and our accountability and participation in the mission and management, we are there. We are working hard to achieve the real meaning of autonomy, because when I talk about autonomy and freedom, my advice, if I can make one, to the Council, that we need to define the autonomy and freedom depending on the different cultures, because you can't just put values of freedom and autonomy that does not be dynamic and then is not flexible according to the location and the space and the implementation of those values. Definitely, there is a special identity for each nation that needs to be respected, or at least to be tailored when we talk about autonomy and freedom. The Egyptian constitution talks clearly about and entirely talked about the university autonomous in Article 21, where we stated that the state guarantees the autonomous of university, scientific and academic freedom. In Article 23, the state grants the freedom of scientific research, because autonomy and freedom has to go with research and teaching as well as student freedom and the rights for freedom. The Magna Carta values in freedom of autonomy and freedom in academia and freedom in research and teaching and innovation and creativity also was very much explicitly mentioned to our Egyptian constitution. So we are working together with our partners from all over the world to enhance the values of the Magna Carta Universitatum, despite the challenges that we met during the last 8 years. In addition, when we work about the 26 public and the 24 private universities and other institutions, we are now focusing more to rethink, to train about tomorrow's workforce and the future generation, especially with the fourth Industrial Revolution 4.0 that we are facing, where we are expecting jobs to disappear and new jobs to come out. And my second question, are we in the Magna Carta Council represent or consider the future of jobs and the future of the fourth industrial revolution and how this will affect the education in universities, having said that universities are going to an online education more and more, other than the traditional universities that student will come, and I know that this will stay, but we are having more and more going to an online education. And do we consider that when we think about Dr. Norda, when he mentioned that the second initiative of the Magna Carta, the 2.0, is going to be modulated according to the new era. And how do we reconstruct our education system in order to overcome the problem of the future jobs in terms of artificial intelligence, 3D printing, the supercomputing, the big data, the data mining, the smart robotics, and the self-driving cars? These are all things that we should look for in the near future for our future generation. And certainly the Magna Carta has to consider during the new initiative, how can we manage with that? So globalization, where we're looking for, we're taking it from affecting to integrating, because I think Dr. Sexton, he mentioned about refugees from Syria. Let me tell you that in Egypt, we are hosting about 5 million refugees from Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, and Libya, certainly, and they are integrated to our educational system. We are dealing with them as if we're dealing with our Egyptian students and taking care of them without any refugee camps. They are all integrated within our community. So globalization means integration, and this is the law that I just mentioned about the International Branch Campus. And finally, I need to send a very kind invitation to the Magna Carta Council for 2019, because this is the year of education in Egypt. So you are more than welcome to arrange with the council to invite you all to come to Egypt or to Sharm el-Sheikh, where we'll have a very good opportunity to host you over there. And thank you very much for your attention.
You can have this.
Good morning. Let me first start by saying how pleased I am to be back to Salamanca. I'm saying back to Salamanca because actually last May the University of Salamanca and Rector Ribeiro welcomed the annual conference of the Coimbra Group, and we had a marvelous week with intense discussion on higher education, but it was also a tremendous festive gathering, so I was indeed looking forward to be back here. I should also say that while preparing this presentation, I consulted the directors of the Coimbra Group member universities, and I was very pleased, though not surprised, that to receive a lot of messages that were strengthening how important the Magna Carta and its values are to the universities that belong to the Coimbra Group, that are old, long-standing universities in Europe. I have in particular in mind the message that I received from Rector Novak from the Jagiellonian University in Krakow, who was really pleading for a strengthening of the cooperation between European universities in view of the current developments within the European landscape, and hopefully the coming initiatives, and I have in mind in particular the alliances of European universities, will hopefully serve this purpose. So let me first maybe briefly describe what is the Coimbra Group in a few facts and figures. The Coimbra Group is a network of the long-standing and among the oldest universities in Europe. Europe seen in the sense of geographical Europe, not political Europe. It was founded in 1985. It now is composed of 39 universities from 23 countries. Altogether, it counts about 1.4 million students. As you can read, more than 200,000 staff. And for the history, it is interesting to recall that when this network was created, there were about 12 to 15 funding universities. And the initial intent was to work together to create or to set the scene for an enhanced framework for student exchange. And this worked so well that 2 years later, the European Commission settled the Erasmus program. So I'm very happy to recall that the Coimbra Group is at the origin of the Erasmus program. And it proved to be a rather successful program, I think. And indeed, if you look at among the latest overview, just the 39 universities altogether group 16% of the total Erasmus exchanges. So this shows indeed how the Coimbra Group universities are strongly committed to this openness to the world. I would also say, and this will be, let's say, my final point regarding the network structure itself, that it's not just a group of old universities. It could be seen as a sort of sleeping beauty, but the Coimbra Group is actually really challenging its structure on a regular basis, and we are really trying to adapt our network to the challenges that our higher education institutions are facing. And just an example, 3 years ago, we have completely restructured the working group structure to really adapt and respond to the challenges. And this led to this three-pillar structure where we have working groups dealing with research, education, and outreach, and they were totally restructured in view of how the higher education system is evolving, also including all the challenges that we are still facing with respect to the Bologna process. So now I would like to show you in a few examples how universities, and in particular the Coimbra Group universities, are responding to the changing world but still keep their values. But before that, let me just recall what are these values that we are talking about. Of course, we have already repeated them, but I think it's always very good to remind that the fundamental principles are that the university is an autonomous institution transcending geographical and political frontiers, that the university is a trustee of humanism's tradition, university serves society and spreads culture and knowledge, and it rejects intolerance and is open to dialogue. And of course, at the core of this, research and teaching are inseparable, but they must be morally and intellectually independent and remain under the seal of freedom. And in a few examples, I will show how, indeed, most of our European universities are really tackling these challenges. The first one is the tradition of humanism. We all are very aware of the refugee crisis that Europe is facing, and it started already some years ago. And very rapidly, the Coimbra Group University decided to group together to try to tackle this challenge. So we created an expert group on refugee relief to refugees, trying to put on around the table some experts from each universities to first sort of have an overview of what are the challenges that each of our institutions are facing. We know that the regulations are different in the different European countries. There are sometimes local support or no support. There are sometimes national support. So basically the landscape is very diverse. So we wanted to share the good practices on how we can include this massive flux of potential students. Also, how can we look at how to admit them in our system, to look over the accreditation, to revise the accreditation system, to really play our inclusive role towards this very specific audience. I should say that, of course, this was very challenging. especially in view of what I just recalled before, the diversity of the different systems. But this led to a very interesting work, and after a 3-year work, last week at EAIE in Geneva, 3 of our members proposed a session that was entitled Welcoming Refugees in Universities, a 3-year perspective. And I'm very, I would like to express my thanks to the University of Bologna, the Université Catholique de Louvain, and Université de Genève, who led this workshop with the support of the other member of this expert group. And this is, I think, where all together we can really make, again, a difference. Regarding rejecting intolerance and opening dialogue. In that very specific case, I will report on initiatives that are going on at my own university in Poitiers in France. And this was triggered by the very sad Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris in January 2015. Immediately, our university community decided to gather together and create an annual program that is still going on secularism, ecumenism, knowledge and freedom. And we are organizing public roundtables, conferences, exhibitions, movies, students' forum, public debates to really bring the academic knowledge on that field to the people, to show them that indeed being different is not a problem. So this is, again, a way where university can address society challenges and promote critical thinking that is so lacking sometimes. Regarding promoting integrity and dialogue, I have here an example from Uppsala University in Sweden, where recently the Vice-Chancellor appointed an advisor for good research practice. I don't think this is always existing at our universities, but this is a typical example of a good practice to look into how a university internally runs its research practices, research ethics. And also at Uppsala, they inaugurated last year a so-called humanities theater where they meet the citizens to present the latest developments in the field of knowledge, culture, and critical dialogue. So this is really a platform to speak with the citizens and to make the bridge between academia and society. So now we could wonder what, as a university network like Coimbra Group, what can we do to support the Magna Carta principles? I already gave a few examples, but one of them is really to speak up about our values. And this we try to do as much as possible. The Executive Board publishes statements to support academic values and academic freedom as much as possible when it's needed. And we had, unfortunately, too many examples in Turkey, in Hungary, and I would not like to list them all, but indeed there are unfortunately too many. We also try to promote collegiality, integrity, and equality as much as possible. A typical example is the 2019, so next year, annual conference of the Coimbra Group that will be hosted by the Jagiellonia University in Krakow. And the topic of the conference will be about gender equality and specifically women in the university. And we also promote any initiative that are going in the sense of engaging more with society. And to this, I would like to give a more precise example of what we have called the Poitiers Declaration. And this is very related to what we had earlier this morning with the presentation from Rector Aranda from Granada University. The Poitiers Declaration, from the name of my own university and city, was launched 2 years ago in Poitiers at the occasion of the Coimbra Group annual conference. And it is a document that promotes cooperation between universities and cities that sometimes just ignore each other, although they are living together for centuries. And we made this document to force, in a way, the rectors and the mayors to speak and sign together this document to promote joint initiatives of local governments, sharing the benefits of and impact of research and education, also promote incentives to knowledge and culture-based entertainment events for the broader public, also promoting internationalization of the activities of not only the universities, but also the cities gain a lot from the presence of international students or international staff who became their best ambassadors when they leave, if they leave. Also to promote development of welcoming and affordable residential policies. We know that this is indeed very critical in our old cities that are hosting old universities. How can we modernize the system to welcome properly the students? And this goes along with the rethinking of the public transportation and urban mobility. And last but not least, to promote good practices in health, learning from our research knowledge, or knowledge gained from research in our labs, and also promote sport among citizens without forgetting the disabled ones. So, I'm indeed finished. Just to say that yes, we have a role to play individually, but also all together, and this is all about the Magna Carta principles. We need to speak up, we need to promote collegiality, and we need to engage society. So this last point, I think, should be strengthened. This is a suggestion in the Magna Carta revisions. Thank you very much.
Distinguished participants, dear colleagues, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, I am profoundly honored to take part in the 30th anniversary of the Magna Carta Universitatum. I had the opportunity to meet Professor Efraim Ildiz Sadak in last July in Iași. He had an amazing presentation, and exceptionally one, at Jassy Summer School, an event that took place for the first time in our university. At the time, we talked about the possibility to come to Salamanca University, so here I am. Happy anniversary, Happy New Year for University of Salamanca. I am profoundly honored to talk about how universities are responsibilities in face of challenges. It's a very important topic, dynamic and very complex, that could be analyzed in terms of risks and opportunities. We know that higher education has many challenges, but I would like to present a few of them. In our opinion, we think that the first challenge is responding to the ever-increasing demands of the labor market. The second one, addressing factors which influence changes in the higher education curricula. The third one, unlocking universities' full potential by pursuing scholarly preeminence. And the last one, receiving and responding to local community signals. I would like to answer to these challenges focused on Alexandrian Cuza University of Iași with some examples, figures, and comments. For those of you who don't know many things about Iași, allow me to say just a few things, a few premieres in our beautiful city. So when we say first-time occurrences in Iași, you will find first Romanian print, first college Scuola Latina in 1563. You will find also first school in Romanian language, first synagogue in Romania, first botanical garden in Romania, first Romanian university, Alexandrian Cuza University, which is created in 1860, world's first Jewish theater, and of course, first national theater in Romania, among the top 7 most beautiful theaters in the world, according to a BBC survey you could see a picture with the main hall of the National Theatre of Iași. Alexandru Ioan Cuza University of Iași is the oldest modern Romanian university, and this year will celebrate 158 years. We have a strong cooperation, international cooperation, with almost 500 partners universities from 65 countries. We have ranking first for the last 20 years in Romania in terms of outgoing students' mobility. We have many international students, 15 faculties, 85 bachelor programs, 164 master programs, and 26 doctoral programs. In terms of internationalization, our university is a member of Coimbra Group, Utrecht Network, is affiliated to different European and international associations, is the founding member of Francophone Universities Network. We have a strong experience in Erasmus Plus and Erasmus Mundus. Just to say, Erasmus Plus agreements signed with 349 partner universities, so we are in top 50 out of 4,000 participating institutions. So let's start with challenge number 1, responding to the ever-increasing demands of the labor market. We all know that universities play a stronger role in preparing the youth for the labor market, so we need to connect universities to the labor market. Higher education contributes to the development of communities with knowledge, skills, and competencies, basic and applied research. Also, education must be provided by a system of stakeholders which are very connected. That's why last year we published a very important case study, University Graduates and the Labor Market, published in December 2017. And the needs of the study was to improve the cooperation between university, business environment, and the public sector. We had two types of participants, students and employers, and we used a survey based on a questionnaire. The conclusion of our study case for students. Students' criteria for the selection of their future employers are flexibility of the work program, extra salary benefits, attractive salary packages, reputation of the company. For the employers, criteria for the selection of their future employees, motivation, job expertise, enthusiasm and loyalty. Loyalty is very important. Quick action capacity. If we try to match extra benefits sought by students and extra benefits offered by employers, we will see that the matching is almost perfect because we'll find domestic vocational training courses, meal tickets, reimbursement of travel expenses, and a wide range of team building activities. So we try to implement common activities. Students, university, when I say university, I mean alumni office and career services with our employers. What kind of activities? Meetings with employers, study visits to companies, developing entrepreneurship, career counseling sessions, career-focused workshops, and CV writing tutorials. Challenge number 2. Addressing factors which influence changes in the higher education curricula. We all know that the curricula must be changed every year it's possible. And the curricula must be based on mutually agreed upon multidisciplinary and vocational learning outcomes. That's why we introduce new subjects like entrepreneurship, project management, academic writing, ethics, basic finance, basic law concept, business administration, medical physics, and physical therapy. And a main goal for us is dropout prevention. That's why we created and implemented 4 projects at the level of the university, which are financed by the World Bank at the Faculty of Letters, Faculty of Mathematics, Faculty of Geography, and we also have a learning center. Challenge number 3. unlocking universities' full potential by pursuing scholarly preeminence. A major risk for us as a university is a decrease in the number of students. Causes are multiple: the negative evolution of demography, the migration of the active population towards other countries, the decrease in the number of undergraduate degree-seeking high school graduates, and the competition with foreign universities and other Romanian universities. But all programs which are offered by our university are accredited by the National Agency for Quality Assurance in Higher Education, and also our university has also been repeatedly evaluated by the European University Association. At the present, our presence in rankings is the following: ranking third in Romania, the first place University of Bucharest, and the second place Babeș-Bolyai University. My colleagues are here also. Ranking 31 in Times Higher Education, ranked 61st in QS World University. And starting this year, we are with 3 subjects: mathematics, chemical engineering, and material science and engineering in Shanghai Rankings Global Ranking of Academic Subjects. Challenge number 4, receiving and responding to local community signals. At European level, we talk often thinking globally and acting locally. At the level of the United Nations, we talk all global challenges are local. Our university has a fundamental role in the development of the city of Iași and the Northeast region. We have a strong consortium with universities of the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine, a cross-border consortium. Iași is a very important academic city with 5 public universities, more than 55,000 students. That's why Iași is a vibrant IT hub with nearly 25,000 employees in this industry, ranking 6 in the top 10 cities with the fastest internet speed in the world, with a lot of companies which are located in Iași County in IT&C, commerce, services, agriculture, and constructions. What's next? At the International Observatory of University Reforms, we found lessons for the future. I found 3 research topics that could be new challenges. The first one, new social models that respect the territory and the environment. For Alexandru Cuza University of Iași, it's important to focus on rural communities. The second one, new ways of thinking and action. It's important to be responsible, to defend human rights, to promote ethics. And the final, answers to the planet's problems. We talk about peace and security, which are important for all of us. So in conclusion, the university of the 21st century must be focused on citizen, responsible, and focused on solidarity. Otherwise, she couldn't exist. So the conclusion is Pierre Calam, de l'Université du XXe siècle, sera citoyenne, responsable et solidaire, ou ne sera pas. Thank you for your patience.